Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MTGO Traders. My name is Taryn, and this is rotation-proof black-white vampires for Core Set 2019 Standard, getting into Guilds of Ravnica Standard. So as with all of our rotation-proof decks, these are decks just made with the Ixalan, Rivals of Ixalan, Dominaria, and Core Set 2019. We haven't seen Guilds of Ravnica just yet as far as the card list, so we'll probably make an update to this deck list once those cards do come out. But I don't think this deck list is going to change too much, as it is a tribal deck list built around vampires. So let's jump right into the deck tech, guys, and get started with the deck list. Starting with our creatures, of course, we have 25 in total: Sky Marcher Aspirant, Vicious Conquistador, Adanto Vanguard, and Dusk Legion Zealot. Aspirant is a great early game attacker, turning into a mid to late game flyer. Vicious Conquistador, another great early game attacker. And Adanto Vanguard is probably the best 2-drop in vampires you can basically ask for. A 2-mana 1/1, as long as it's attacking, gets +2/+0, and we can pay 4 life and make the Vanguard indestructible. We have a lot of things in our deck that give us the ability to gain life, and Vanguard is actually just going to be a 3/1 indestructible creature most of the time attacking in. So that means an opponent is going to have to get rid of it with a Seal Away or get rid of it with a Vraska's Contempt. Dusk Legion Zealot, though, is a great way for us in the mid to late game and early game as well to draw some cards. We do lose some life, but we get a card out of it, which is not too bad. A 2-mana 1/1, when it enters the battlefield, draw a card, and you lose 1 life. Conquistador is whenever it attacks, each opponent loses 1 life. We don't gain a life there, so that is kind of bad, but it is a 1/2 for 1, so that's not bad either. Let's move on to the top-end creatures here. We have Legion Lieutenant, basically pumping our entire board state. Other vampires you control get +1/+1. Maverick Fane, which is a card that opponents really need removal for as soon as it's a battlefield. It's a 3-mana 2/2. Whenever 1 or more non-token vampires you control attacks, create a 1/1 white vampire creature token with lifelink. And Sanctum Seeker and Vampire Sovereign, just a great way to end the match. Sanctum Seeker is a 4-mana 3/4. Whenever a vampire you control attacks, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life, effectively making Adanto Vanguard just, again, a 3/1 indestructible creature. And Vampire Sovereign here is very, very good. A 5-mana 3/4 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent loses 3 life and you gain 3 life. So a great way for you to kind of have a nice kind of bolt to the face and gain 3 life, as well as having a 3/4 flyer to get over an opponent's gummed up board state. Super good card, great top end for our creature curve. Let's move on to our spells here and see what we're working with. We've got 12 in total, which is 2 Pride of the Conquerors, Vraska's Contempt, Legion's Landing, and Radiant Destiny. Legion's Landing is a great way to get an early game attacker as a 1/1 lifelinker. It can also flip and be a token producer for us in the mid to late game and be an extra land. Radiant Destiny is great for us to be able to pump our creatures as well as give them mid game or mid to late game vigilance as well. They also stack on top of each other, which is very, very good. And like if your opponent is removing the Legion Lieutenants, Radiant Destiny is just a great replacement for that. Vraska's Contempt is here to deal with any kind of control strategy in the first game, as well as any kind of hard to deal with creatures right now like Hazoret and Mono Red Aggro. And Pride of the Conquerors is just a great way to, like, you know, end a match if an opponent is not ready for an all swing out Alpha Strike and you have a Send ready, giving all of your creatures +2/+2. So this is a great way to end the match early for an opponent. Let's move on to our lands here and see what we're working with. We've got Swamp, Plains, Isolated Chapel, and Unclaimed Territory. That's basically as simple as it gets. You could probably put in maybe some Field of Ruins here for some Search for Azcanta action, but I really like to keep the land simple here, just to kind of keep the price down. So let's move on to our sideboard here and see what we got. We've got 15 cards in total: 3 Duress, Sentinel Totem, 2 Cast Down, and 2 Seal Away. We have Seal Away in the sideboard here because against the Black-White Knights deck, Seal Away is terrible because of all the vigilance. Any kind of other deck that has Radiant Destiny, it can be kind of terrible against that. Cast Down is really good against the mono green aggro list, and Sentinel Totem is just great against any kind of recursion list as well. Duress is here for those control matchups. Let's move on to the next here as far as the rest of the sideboard. We've got Invoke the Divine, Plague Mare, Settle the Wreckage, and Champion of Dusk. Invoke the Divine is here for any kind of artifacts. Mono blue artifacts might be a thing once rotation happens. Plague Mare is a great board wipe against any kind of token-based strategy right now. Doesn't really do much against the Knights deck, the Black-White token Knights deck right now, but it does do a lot against Mono Red Aggro, and that's why it's in the sideboard here. Settle the Wreckage is here against another kind of aggro strategy, more tempo-based strategy, something where they have flyers in the field like dragons or something like that. We want to bring in Settle the Wreckage for that. And Champion of Dusk is just a great one-up here, being a 5-mana 4/4. When it enters the battlefield, we draw X cards and we lose X life, where X is the number of vampires you control. So if you have a lot of vampires in the battlefield, you may draw 5 cards and lose 5 life. While losing life is bad, with a deck like this where you're gaining a lot of life, that isn't terrible. And it's also a 4/4, so it can kind of you know, kick around some good creatures against an opponent's side of the field. But that's it for all of the cards in the deck list here. That's the full 75. Let's go to the actual layout here. If you want to build this on MTGO Traders, it's coming to about 40 tickets, which is not bad at all. And if you'll build this in paper, it's coming to a decent 112 bucks. The most, as far as the price in the deck list itself, is coming to Vraska's Contempt, Legion's Landing, Isolated Chapel is just a little bit there. Everything else is a buck or two, or even less than that, just a couple quarters, or dimes, or nickels, or pennies, or however much your currency is. But that is the full deck list, guys. Let's get into some matches and see what this deck can do. Many Magic the Gathering players ask the question, will rotation-proof black-white vampires be okay? We keep a 4-lander, which is not bad because of our Adonto Vanguard and Radiant Destiny. Go with a swamp past turn. We see a black-blue land, so it might be a control deck. So we kind of think we want to go for a white land and go for a Adonto Vanguard as soon as we possibly can. Past turn, we did that because we want to see if a Radiant Destiny can make it onto the following turn here. Gonna go Knight with the, or not Knight, Vampire with Unclaimed Territory. And then Radiant Destiny hits it with a negate. We do know we're up against a control deck. We're hitting in for 3 here, which means that Adonto Vanguard is actually not long for this world, probably, thanks to Vraska's Contempt and black-blue deck list, but we'll see what happens. Evolving Wilds for opponents, they don't hit their 4th land drop for the turn. We go with a land here. Gonna go with a Legion Lieutenant first, and then get in for 4 here. So we could have gone for Sanctum Seeker, but cast down hitting that Legion Lieutenant. We want to make sure that they get out as much control magic from their hand as possible before we play cards like Sanctum Seeker. And we just crash in again for some more damage with the Vanguard. Patient Rebuilding. So this is a black-blue mill deck, which is kind of amazing. They tap out, we go Sanctum Seeker, hit in for 3, actually 4 points of damage, and go up to 21. Patient Rebuilding does get rid of a land, so they get to draw an extra card because of that. Keep in mind that pitches 3 cards to the graveyard from top of our deck, and if they hit a land, they draw a card. Sanctum Seeker gets killed with a Never to Return. We hit another land, getting into a little bit too much land, but opponent's down to 7, so we really just need to continue to keep Adonto Vanguard alive and attack out. Now, return will be a headache from the graveyard because it can get rid of a Fatal Push going to Adonto Vanguard here. We pay the 4 life, make it indestructible. The return there can be a way for them to make a 2/2 to get in the way of the Vanguard, which is fine. Another Fatal Push on the upkeep. We pay another 4 life. Again, they have 2 cards in hand. They're just kind of burning their hand right now because they are on control. We keep hitting lands. Oh my god. If you guys know by our streams, or by the streams that I do, I hit lands a lot sometimes in testing. Glimmer of Genius for opponent here, trying to refill their handful of content. 6 cards because of the Patient Rebuilding hitting 3 lands off the top. They're back up with a completely full deck of cards. We have 37 cards in our hand. They go Fraying Sanity as well. And they also go Psychic Corrosion. But they're down to 4 here, so we really just need Anticipate as well, so they tap it completely out. And yeah, we basically have the game here, but if opponent untapped with that, we probably would have been dead as far as mill. But Pride of the Conquerors is the way we win that match there, so just kind of squeaked it out barely with just 1 creature on the battlefield the entire game. Adonto Vanguard doing some work. So we take out Pride of the Conquerors, bringing in Duress and Invoke the Divine to deal with those enchantments. Taking out Vraska's Contempt to deal with any kind of and bring in Invoke the Divine for enchantment and artifact removal. And we take out Vraska's Contempt because we know they don't have any kind of planeswalkers or creatures. Have a pretty decent aggressive opening hand here with 3 lands, 2 1-drops, and 2 2-drops. Go with a keep here. Opponent's on the play with Hypno Rivulae. And we go with a white or black mana and go Vicious Conquistador. Keep in mind, Vicious Conquistador can actually do 2 points of damage as it attacks, so gonna go with that. And could go for the Vanguard here, but we're going to attack in first. They have 2 blue mana available, so I'm kind of thinking of an Essence Scatter. So we go with the Dusk Legion Zealot first, and Syncopate for 1 there. So we want to make sure that the Adonto Vanguard hits the battlefield, if we can. Psychic Corrosion from opponent here. Gonna just lay a land. Named Vampire with Unclaimed Territory. Get out Sky Marcher Aspirant and then get out Adonto Vanguard since they did tap out. We could have gone Invoke the Divine on the Psychic Corrosion, but it's so early in the match that we're really not worried about that. We're only worried about Psychic Corrosion once Fraying Sanity hits the board state, which it does. So very scary. We get a bunch of cards cycled into our graveyard. We can go Maverick Feint or Invoke the Divine here. Kind of a tough choice, honestly. Build out our board state or get rid of Psychic Corrosion. We go with Maverick Feint here just to make sure we have a way to attack in. They kill the Vicious Conquistador, and then we get in for 3 points of damage, or dropping them down to 11. Milling us once again 2 more cards for Fraying Insanity as well. Never to Return, killing Maverick Feint, and then Anticipate. So they have 0 cards in hand, getting 1 more thanks to Anticipate. And then our turn here. So Fraying Sanity, again, throwing stuff into the graveyard, but we have invoked the Divine, which we're going to use on Psychic Corrosion. We don't normally want to use it on Fraying Sanity. We want to use it on Psychic Corrosion instead, or whatever the actual mill card is. And the reason for that is because if they don't have anything with mill, Fraying Sanity does nothing. They're down to 5 here, and they're really close to dead. And that's it. They're going to scoop it up. Very nice. Let's get on to match 2 here and see what we can do. I love the black-blue mill deck, but black-white vampires is just a little fast. Mulliganed a terrible 1-lander and got into an okay hand here with 4 lands and a decent top deck. So go with a tap land here, go Isolated Chapel, and then do Untitled Vanguard. Played Isolated Chapel first because of the tap land, just kind of showing off what colors we have. Baffling End for Untitled Vanguard, a great way to get rid of it. This is a Boros list, not really sure what it is just yet. Go Legion Lieutenant and pass the turn. 5 cards in hand for opponent. They pass the turn here, which is interesting. We lay our Unclaimed Territory and go Dusk Legion Zealot here and draw an extra card, and then just go with the Legion Lieutenant here, paying mana for the Unclaimed Territory, and then get in for 3. So, got them down to 17. Vraska's Contempt is online for us if we need to. Sweltering Suns clears the entire board. Super painful for us. We go Legion's Landing trying to rebuild here, holding up Vraska's Contempt for a flyer or a big attacker, or maybe even a Chandra, Torch of Defiance. This looks maybe like a control list, and so having Vraska's Contempt in our opening hand here is not bad. Notice then that our opponent is a fan of our videos, which is nice. I keep the chat up here so you guys can see everything's happening. And I'm trying to make the black-white vamps work during the recording here. So there's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards, or 5 men on the battlefield, 4 cards in hand. Yeah, not streaming, just testing for the opponent. Oh, man. And the second Legion's Landing here, so it's a great way for us to attack in here and then make another creature with Legion's Landing, which is good here. Losing the first Legion's Landing isn't terrible for us because all we want is that second creature, so we can get to 3 eventually for Legion's Landing to flip. Legion's Lieutenant for us here, making these 2/2s and attacking in for 4, 5 cards in hand for opponent. Still haven't seen much from them. I think we might see a Settle the Wreckage the following turn. Planes hitting the battlefield. Either they're mana flooded here, or we're just going to be killed by a Settle the Wreckage this turn. There is a Seal Away hitting the Legion Lieutenant there. So no Settle the Wreckage. Adanto, the first fort, does flip for us, giving us the ability to make some 1/1s. Opponent's down to 10 here, and we accidentally pass priority before making a token there. Vampire Sovereign off the top here, pretty good. Skywhaler Shot, though, deals with it, so this is probably some weird Boros control list. There is a couple of these decks going around, but opponent is really kind of behind right now. We're at 31 life thanks to our life linkers, and opponent's down to 5. Chandra, Torch of Defiance, hitting the battlefield, getting a planes off the top there, and Vraska's Contempt, just dealing with that immediately. And then we continue to attack in here for 2, and then we're going to make a token, hopefully, if we remember, on our instep here, or on their instep. Tormenting Voice from opponent with Gideon, and they go with a +1 here on the Gideon. They probably should have gone with Emblem, but I guess it's okay. Dusk Legion Zealot for us, making a draw for us. Vicious Conquistador as well off the top. We're going to attack them first, dropping them down to 1, making sure that Gideon goes with an Emblem here, unless opponent has some sort of board wipe. They go with Emblem here, absolutely. 3 cards in hand, and passing the turn back. We're going to go with another token here. We didn't play the Conquistador thinking they might have a board wipe ability. So we're going to attack it in for 1, and then attacking everything else towards Gideon here, hoping they don't have a Settle the Wreckage. This is kind of attacking with Reckless Abandon, but it pays off! And let's get into sideboard here and see what we can do. So we're kind of up against a Boros control list, so bringing in Champion of Dusk, taking out 1 Radiant Destiny, bringing in Invoke the Divine for those baffling ends and stuff like that, taking out the Pride of the Conquerors, and then just hitting Submit here. This is the point in the deck where you probably want to have more Vraska's Contempt for these particular matchups, since they're really so like Planeswalker heavy. We have a decent opening hand as well. Legion's Landing on turn 1 is really good, with a turn 2 Vanguard or Zealot, just fantastic. 2 lands for opponent, hitting into a Vanguard here. Going with the Vanguard first over the Zealot, because Vanguard is a fantastic attacker on turn 3, hitting in for 4 if we can. Arc of Vraska here, passing turn. Legion Lieutenant is another great way for us to pump our board state. Usually means that Legion Lieutenant is going to die, though, thanks to removal. Seal Away is going to hit that Adanto Vanguard, though, which is unfortunate, but, you know, not unforeseen. 6 cards in hand for opponent here, and trying to see if they hit another land. They don't hit their 3rd land drop. Passing turn, we're down to 4. land drops here, and then we hit Sanctum Seeker off the top. Just a fantastic card for us. A Braid going towards Legion Lieutenant, and then a Vampire getting in for 1, and we gain 2 there, and they lose 2. Very nice. Sanctum Seeker is just fantastic. Great way for us to close out a match here. We're going to go Death Legion Zealot first. We did have enough mana to go for a Vampire Sovereign, but seeing if we could get into another creature as well. Trying to get that Legion landing to flip. We can. So attacking with the Seeker there was kind of tricky because they could have had another seal away, but they did not. 9 life here. Sweltering Suns does clear the board, except for the Seeker here. Vampire Sovereign, just another great card for us. Coming in, pinging them for 3, we gain 3, and then we attack in for 4, basically. And opponent is, yeah, sometimes it's frustrating to get no lands. They got mana screwed there. It happens. We're going to get in here, drop them down to 5, going up to 31. It does suck to get mana screwed sometimes, but it is nice to know that opponent basically was surviving really well until they just kind of could not back off the aggression of the black-white vampire list. But they're giving us the GG, and that is it for match number 2. Very nice GG. And make sure to always attack in whenever opponents give you the GG. Never concede, because it could be a sneaky tactic for them. Let's get into match 3 here and see what this deck is capable of in match 3. Really loving black-white vampires. I really think this is a deck list that's going to stand the test of time throughout all of Standard until it rotates. I think that the more pieces we get for this deck, the better it is, especially because of Vanguard, Lieutenant, and cards like Radiant Destiny and Vampire Sovereign. Danto Vanguard on turn 2, Sheltered Thicket from opponent, and a Mountain. So this might be a dinosaur list, perhaps? Tormenting Voice with a Precognition field in the graveyard. I have no idea what this deck is. Let's go Legion Lieutenant here. I get in for 4 points of damage thanks to the Lieutenant. Down to 16 on turn 3. 3 lands. Looks like a pass here. Gonna go with a another Legion Lieutenant. We can't play the Radiant Destiny because we don't have white mana. That is the downside to the Unclaimed Territory. And a Braid's killing the first Legion Lieutenant, so we still get in for 4 points of damage here, but not 5. Sad panda. Another land hitting the Ipni Rivulet there. And opponent's tapping out here, going for a Banefire to Legion Lieutenant. Ouch. Very painful. Maverick Fane coming in. We just have fantastic ways to build out our deck, or build out our board state over and over again. Maverick Fane being one of them. 9 life left. Let's see here. Gonna go for an Hour of Devastation. That hurts so bad because Adanto Vanguard dies from that card. But we top deck it in Adanto, and that's gonna do it. Very nice. 5 cards in hand for opponent, laying a Hashep Oasis there. And probably gonna go with maybe a ramp spell or something. Yeah, Hour of Promise is the card they're gonna go with. They have 3 deserts on the battlefield already, and they'll be able to make 2/2/2 zombies as well, and get the City's Blessing thanks to Ark of Araska. Going for a land here. We could go with the Radiant Destiny or Vampire Sovereign. We should decide to go for the Radiant Destiny, not Vampire Sovereign. Brass's Contempt. Decide to go Radiant Destiny and attack in here, and pay the 4 life to make sure we have the trade there. Just making sure that we can continue to be aggressive and, you know, thin their board state. 3 cards in hand for opponent. Not really sure what our opponent is on right now. They could be on one of many kind of strategies, but they're definitely on some weird ramp thing. Growth from the Ashes here, or Grow from the Ashes here, getting them some mana as well. That was also kicked. Untapping, and we have Dust Legion Zealot or Contempt. We go Contempt onto the zombie here, and then get in for 4. Trying to close out the match as quickly as we can, because if we do hit another land, Vampire Sovereign can suck the life out of them. So just making sure we're being as aggressive as possible. Brass's Contempt also gives us 2 life, so the paying 4 life to make the Vanguard indestructible isn't terrible either. Looks like they're going to draw some cards with Ark of Araska here. Yep, drawing a card. And they've got plenty of mana to do follow-up spells here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana right there. Hour of Promise, making 2 more zombies, so more blockers for them. But again, as soon as we hit some mana, Vampire Sovereign can just suck the life out of them. Gonna go Dust Legion Zealot here, hit a Maverick Fane, and then go Vicious Conquistador, and then just attack in with our 4/2 here, Indestructible. They're of course gonna block, but we're gonna pay Indestructible, and just continue to try and be as aggressive as possible. 4 cards in hand for opponents. Lots of stuff going on their side of the field as far as mana goes. Oh man, so much mana. You gonna Banefire me for 1,000 points? Is that what's happening here? Banefire 14! Oh, that's what happened. Alright, so things to do here. We could bring in Invoke the Divine to gain some life for Legion's Landing. We take out Vraska's Contempt, bring in Duress, take out Pride of the Conquerors, and then thinking about another option here to bring in as far as cards. Could bring in the Plague Mail or the Settle the Wreckage. We're going to bring in Invoke the Divine, just one of them, just to make sure we have some life gain against any kind of random Legion's Landing if we want to kill it, or any kind of enchantment stuff like Precognition Field, since we did see that. I hit my my mic stand there. So 4 lands in our opening hand here. Turn 1, Legion's Landing. Turn 2, Conquistador. Not terrible at all, making 2 attackers on turn 2. Of course, that's only crashing in for 3 points of damage on turn 3, but that's okay. We have enough mana here for a Vampire Sovereign now. Getting in for 1 point of damage, gaining 1 life, going to 21. Laying a Mountain for opponent and passing turn. Getting in for, let's see here, 3 points if we can. Magma Spray hitting the Conquistador, though, exiling it. Be happy when that card is out of standard at the moment. Sky Marcher Aspirant hitting the battlefield as a 2-1. Not a flyer right now, we don't have City's Blessing, but a Magma Spray hits that as well, so very, very painful to our board state. We have a Danto Vanguard here, which is super good. And getting in for 1 point of damage here, going back up to 23. A Braid hitting that Life Leaker. So they have removal forever. Vampire Sovereign can be our turn 5 play if we want it to be. 3 cards in opponent's hand here. And Legion Lieutenant as well. But we're going to go for a Vampire Sovereign to get that life gain, life loss kind of thing going here. And then getting in for 3 points of damage. Take them down to 12 if we can. Very, very nice. We know that Braids and things like that can kill the Legion Lieutenant, so playing a Vampire Sovereign is a good way to get around those kind of spells. Let's go Legion Lieutenant here and get in for 8 points of damage. Dropping them down to 4. 5 cards in hand. Do they have anything? That is it for game 2. Let's get into game 3. They just could not stand up to that aggro there. And that's kind of the goal against the ramp decks. You want to be as aggressive as possible, but also be aware of like what they're kind of trying to do on turn 1 through 3. Which is, just ramp or trying to kill your board state. So if you can, effectively play cards over and over again, you should be fine. Have another pretty decent opening hand here. Gonna go with a turn 1 Legion's Landing and pass the turn, making a 1/1. Shelter Thicket from opponent. And then Conquistador could be the next play, or a Danto Vanguard. Hinterland Harbor from opponent. I think we're gonna want to go with maybe the Vanguard here. Try and be aggressive. Getting in for 1 point of damage. Down to 19, up to 21. Nope! Magma Spray to the face. Very sad to see that. 4 cards in opponent's hand and a pass turn here. Gonna go with a Maverick Fane to try and create some 1/1s. Basically just trying to see if we can get removal out of their hand. A Braid hitting that, no problem. Getting in for 3. They're trying to play keep away with their life total, but again, the Danto Vanguard is super good at being able to get around that kind of removal. So let's go Vampire here, play out the Radiant Destiny, name Vampire, and then play a Vicious Conquistador as well. We're kind of counting here for the Ascend. Don't hit the Ascend just yet. Holding Conquistador thanks to a board wipe spell, since they're going to hit 5 this turn. Field of Ruin is the card they just played. 3 cards in hand. To go with the pass here, let's go Legion Lieutenant, and then probably should have gone for a Conquistador as well to build up the Ascend. Magma Spray hitting the Lieutenant, but it doesn't kill it because of Radiant Destiny, so they actually miscalculated there. That was a really good, really bad misplay on their part. Really good play for us. Field of Ruin hitting our unclaimed territory, giving us an untapped land. We do have 9 permanents on the battlefield, so playing that Vicious Conquistador would have turned on the Radiant Destiny there. But we were afraid of a Hour of Devastation, and a Banefire hitting the Lieutenant there. Duress off the top, hitting that 1 card in hand. Precognition Field, and then taking in for 4. Again, holding that Conquistador just to make sure if we can, if they board wipe us, we have something to play. But we win the match there. Very nice. All right, guys, those are the matches. Hope you did like them. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and make sure to enable notifications to know when we have a video go live on the channel. And yeah, hope you did like it. And let me know your thoughts down below on a deck tech I should cover in the future. Would love to hear your comments as well. And I'll, probably cover it in the future. And we're getting closer and closer to Guilds of Ravnica preview season. So whenever that starts up, deck techs are going to stop, and I'm just going to focus on Guilds of Ravnica Ravnica until that releases, and then deck techs will start up once again. But again, they'll all be, you know, not rotation proof, they'll just be within standard, which is really awesome. Can't wait. I think right now, as of recording, 47 days until Kaladesh and Amonkhet blocks rotate, which is, I can't wait. Alright guys, I love you all, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel for more awesome MTG content just like this. And make sure to tap the bell icon to be notified whenever a video is made live. If you want to keep watching content, here are 2 more videos for you. This video and many others are sponsored by MTGO Traders and Cape Fear Games. Buy and sell digital singles to build your online collection today with MTGO Traders, and get your paper singles, accessories, and much more from Cape Fear Games. Whatever your Magic needs, both places have you covered.